upload their files to this file station folder, and they will just copy or move them to whichever printing process they would like their file to be printed in. So I'll go over here maybe twice a day or so and take all the files and load them onto our hard drive. So, for instance, this file I grabbed was in the Objet folder, so I'm going to throw it in the corresponding folder on the hard drive.
No, that's over.
And the two prints. So once I have the information, I go and log it using our Google Doc.
For like other people's files, there's like almost like that. I have to figure out whether
Yes, it's actually on its own little private network.
We have two docs for each machine. There's a tracking file and a build file. The tracking is for all of the files, so we know everything that goes through our lab. So for instance, I'll take the file information from here. This isn't labeled right. It should be labeled their last and first name, class number, section, just so we have all that information. So I'll log that in.
Figure out at the time was like, okay, so then we say that but we can just give them their static IDs and so this computer communicates, this printer communicates via.
Okay. So once we've logged all the files, they'll go into the to print folder, and we'll have all these files that are in the queue be printed. Once they're all ready to go, we'll take them over to our actual machine.
Where do you get the amount used from that you put in the Google Doc?
I will show you.
Oh, it's over here.
Yeah.
So the Zcorp printer communicates with the computer via Ethernet. Oh yeah, so
Now, so they vary by machine. I'll show you the Zcorp and the solid-state one. But so once we have our files, we open up Objet Studio, and we will load each of the files. So this is the file that we want, and I'll just get that ready to print.
Okay.
So in this program, I can find the consumptions, and that's where I get those numbers from. So the model, these are actually the right ones. Okay, so once we have the file information in there correct, we'll load all of this into our build charts. So if this is the only file we're going to print, let's say we have a whole bunch of them on here, we'll export the job, and we'll save that into our Objet archive. And let's say I'm not going to be able to print this until Friday, so it'll go into a folder labeled Friday's date. Friday's the 12th, yeah. And the file will have the same name as the date it intends to be printed. So we save the build in that file. What we also have to do is save the actual files into that same folder. So this gets really annoying. So we go to our two prints. We'll make sure the file's in there too. So we'll copy that there. And then we also want to save a copy of the file. We want to move the file from the two prints into the printed folder, since we have that loaded into a build. So just reviewing what we end up with for the object is a file for the date that we plan on printing it. It'll have the build file that we're going to use to print the object, and also a copy of the initial STL file.
So they can't print direct STL files, they have to convert it to
Yeah,
a
it has
file
to-
format for the printer.
Yes.
Okay.
And then whenever we're ready to print, we can load this and print it. But before we do that, we want to make sure that we load the build information into its own Google Doc. So we saw the file tracking one for each of the files. There's also one for each and every build. So for this one, we're planning on building it
This is for the most part just a workstation.
and then again, we'll have our supports, build, the material, which varies. Right now, we're mainly using Vera Blue. How many models are in each build, and how long it takes. And we can find out all of these numbers by going and estimating the consumptions for the prints. So we'll show it right in the program.
So what goes in that file is an estimation. There's not really a way to tell.
It's very
accuracy.
close to it. It's
Okay.
very close. So that's for the object. Similar, it's pretty similar for the Zcorp. So the Zcorp, we have a build and we have a file as well.
They just sign up all the time, but if anyone wants,
So same as the object where we went through and checked the files. Once we know that the file's ready to print and it's okay, we'll load it into our file tracking so we know how many files are going to that machine. And for instead of like the supports and model consumptions, we have just a volume that we keep track of because the Zcorp doesn't have supports material in it. And we can find this number by just going into the software or just going into two programs and finding that. We also check to see if it's a colored model because the Zcorp machine can print in either black and white or color. So we want to monitor how much color we're using.
the most problems that we have, I don't know, is like, most of us
And then for the build, here, I'll show you this on the Zcorp computer so it's a little easier.
the people that bring in Illustrator files don't really know in a way how the program works.
Alright, so it's the object and then Zcorp. So this machine gets the most files read through it. It's our most to use a machine. The software we use for this is 3D Print. Okay, so we have our 2D printed folder. Let's say that's in our to be in the queue. So we'll go into our 3D print and we can open a new one. We'll import our files from the hard drive. We use inches. Okay, so we have our model. Now I need to estimate how, I need to know a couple of things from this. I need to know the volume. So first we can go to, let's see. In build time estimator, that'll tell me that'll give me all the information I need. So it's going to say the total volume is 1.54 cubic inches. So I will load that into our Google Doc. Okay, so here's our file tracking. So we have the student name, that is Joshua DeMonte. The date that I checked it, so today's date would be the 10th. And their file name, I normally just copy this. And their course number. The volume, which we just checked, it's 1.54 cubic inches. And is this object going to use color ink? Yes, it clearly will. So we would do a Y for yes. Okay, so we have our file in there. And let's say we want to just print this one object. We'll go back to our build time estimator because we need to fill out the rest of the information for our build charts. So, I haven't done a build in a while, so I'm trying to remember this. Okay. So once we have our build put together, let's say I want to add a few more things, maybe I don't. We'll save it into our archive for whichever date we're planning on printing it. So let's say I want to print this on Friday again. So we'll save it as whenever we're ready to build it, we'll just open it up. And before every build that we start, we have to fill out the build charts. With the build name. So that's the date that we run it. Let's say I actually don't get to run it until Saturday when I'm in here. So we'll do 9. And we'll use our build time estimator that pulls up all the information about the build. So that's where we can find details about how much binder and material we're using. So I'll look for the mono, yellow, and magenta. So here we go. Yellow 0.15, magenta 0.12, cyan 0.0.
Yeah, there's like, there's always like, you have to know what we're cutting, what
Okay, mono
but
33.7.
however they want, the only thing is that we're taking off
And then how many cubic inches is the whole build? Since we're only doing one part, it's going to be still the 1.54. One model,
as long as,
and how long it will take. 2 hours, 13 minutes. And that's pretty much it for every single build we have to do. So when we're